some people don't want to know the truth because it doesn't fit with their...
Well, that's one of my big problems with much of organized religion, or some of I have a lot of different problems with it, but one is this notion that you don't want your kids to know how the world really works for fear that they'll lose their faith. We don't want to teach them. We don't want them to learn anything because they might change their faith.
But then there's another
abuse.
level of why as well, because they think that losing their faith is equated with badness.
Yeah.
So and some people genuinely believe that you won't go to heaven if you don't believe. So they think they're doing a good thing.
Yeah,
I'm saving my child. From hell.
Yeah. Well, I think when people do. Most of the times when people do bad things, they're actually thinking they're doing a good thing. They have a rationalization for it. I mean, extreme is the parents who don't let their kids get blood transfusions for religion. I mean, they're not trying to kill their kids. They think they're doing the right thing. And that's the problem,
I mean, that's one of my favourite forms of evolution, people who refuse.
Yeah, natural selection. The Darwin Awards. Yeah, exactly. As long as they refuse...
Not for their kids, obviously. That's the shame, that that is child abuse.
Well, we want them to refuse before they have kids.
Well, exactly. We want them to refuse for themselves as an adult.
Yeah, we want to make sure they don't reproduce. But that's part of the problem. I've talked to someone else we've talked to, Noam Chomsky, and he used to say that with me that he didn't care what people believe; it's what they do that matters. But the problem is what you believe affects what you do. So when you have these crazy beliefs, like I'm doing are you a favor by not allowing you to have a transfusion? I ultimately do silly things, and so that's the reason. Yeah. It seems to me that's the reason to be grounded in reality at some level, because you don't do silly things.
Of course, yeah, but he's right as well. If people just believe silly things, it's not a problem. It's when they act on them.
Yeah, but we all...
I've never had a problem with spirituality or people believing in any god or whatever, or witches and warlocks. Yeah. But if they start infringing on my rights to play out their fantasies, then that's when I've got a say in it.
Yeah, but I know, I agree. But I guess my problem is that no one's an island. I mean, so inevitably, if you have these crazy beliefs, you have kids or you have neighbors, and you impact on others, and so at some level that...
But we should say that most religious people are normal. They just happen to believe in God, and we think they're wrong. I've often said if nice religious people, normal religious people...
Church of England types.
Well, they know the bits to ignore in the Bible, and
they pick and choose.
So they don't need the Bible.
Yeah.
If you know the bad bits from the good bits, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And we that's what we call extremists and fundamentalists. They're the people who believe the bad bits in their holy book as well.
Yeah, they don't realize that if you took, we used to, if you took the Old Testament literally, it's a horrible thing. And people complain about Islam and Muslim, but if you took the Old Testament and stoning it, but people always pick and choose what they want to. There was a survey done.
People choose their own religion.
Yeah.
If they don't like a bit in their religion, they modify it, and it's a new church.
And exactly.
This one can drink and eat bacon. That's my religion.
Yeah.
This is my religion. Yeah, exactly. Also, not so much nowadays, but there's modern sects popping up all over. But the ancient ones were definitely made by the people in charge to better themselves, just like politicians today stitch up what's right and wrong.
Yeah.
It's you create your morality. If you're in charge, you create morality that's right for you.
Yeah,
exactly,
and make sure everyone else does it.
Of course, yeah.
But it's there was an interesting survey done in the UK, which was asking people in the census. One of the good things about the census was, for the first time, I think almost 50% of the people said they didn't have a religion or they weren't members of the Church of England, and they asked people why. Why do you say you're Christian? Do you believe in transubstantiation or the Virgin? And people would say no, and they'd say, well, why? And they'd say, I like to think of myself as a good person.
Yeah.
So for most people, being religious just means they've co-opted morality.
And it's a shortcut, and that's why they pass it on to their kids, because they think they're, I've said before, my mum was. She was mildly religious. Again, C of E religious.
Yeah.
Go to church, and you're a good person. You're a respectable person. And usually, for a working class mum, Jesus is an unpaid babysitter.
Yeah.
If I can't watch you, he can. And you take that for a while, and it's fine. And I don't think it's particularly harmful outside academia. But then you realise that it's just not true. Even if you look at the stats of religious people in prisons to atheists, but it doesn't add up. And morality predates all religion. We got on before we had to make the rules.
I think if there's one thing I would love to be able to get across to people, it's that morality is, in principle, ultimately is something we develop, and we tune our religion to fit the morality we have. I mean, the notion. I mean, we don't need to believe in God to be good. Obviously.
No,
And I'm actually a friend of mine,
I think even religious people believe that.
Yeah.
I think they know that.
But so there's a friend of mine, a physicist, Steve Weinberg, who won the Nobel Prize, but he's an atheist, and he said, I'll paraphrase him, but he said, so there are good people and bad people. Good people do good things, bad people do bad things. When good people do bad things, it's religion. It's interesting because you can motivate yourself because of a belief that somehow there's a divine right to do something.
Well, of course.
You're burning people or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's not always the case, but it certainly can motivate you to do bad things and justify it because of how you're told. Because that's the purest form of brainwashing.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, your brain's a sponge, and your parents tell you, "Don't go near the fire, don't go near the spider, don't go near the thing. If you do that, you'll go to hell." What? And if it's laid down,
and they know
equated to all those other things that are true and observable, and you shouldn't go near a lion and all that sort of stuff. And if you're never, when you're 8 years old and you say, "Is there really a Santa?" Your parents go, "No, don't tell your little sister." But they don't do that with God sometimes.
Yeah, it's really
because they think it'd be bad for you to be an atheist in society, and in some places it is.
Yeah, it's
a rule of survival.
Yeah. I mean, in spite of the problems, we're just lucky we can even have this conversation.
Of course,
for most of human history, we couldn't have even had this conversation and walked out of the room alive.
It's my only thing I can hold on to that I'm oppressed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's
there's 13 countries I can't even visit.
Yeah. Only 13.
I'm oppressed.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
Okay. Well, it's nice. We all got to feel like victims.
Luckily, I don't want to go there anyway.
Yeah, that's probably.
They're the 13 countries I don't want to go to, so it's worked out really well.
Did they have Netflix in those countries or not?
Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, but it's interesting, and I've said this, and that in some sense, teaching religion to kids is child abuse because, and I just learned a quote the other day from the Archbishop of Canterbury, who said, "Educating children is like engraving in stone," and that it's really hard to outgrow because the kids aren't. I mean, that question is a deep question ultimately, and a kid,
it's not even that it works.
Yeah,
it's that you were given to it as truth
before you could think about things, and you learn it here, rather than there, and it's and I remember it was actually Richard who alerted me to this. I never thought of that. There's a picture in the paper he showed at Christmas time of 4 little kids, and it's really sweet. It says a Muslim kid and a Jewish kid and a Catholic kid and a Protestant kid, and they're all playing together. And you say, hold on a second, a 3-year-old. It's like, that's not a Catholic kid. That's a 3-year-old. It's like saying it's a neoliberal kid, a deconstructionist kid, and we label them, and that becomes their reality.
Faith schools and exactly.
So you were as far as I was reading, you were 8. You went to church till you were 8, and then do you make a decision not to go at that point?
No, I still went. I went because I got paid for being in the choir till I was about 14. I just kept it quiet that I was an atheist.
Okay.
I'll take the money.
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely.
I'm not an idiot. But atheists got to earn.
Yeah, that's right. Atheists have to eat like everybody else.
Exactly, yeah. No, and I remember the moment as well. I believed in God just because I thought everyone did, and that was it.
Yeah, sure. Me too.
And everyone around me said things like God. It was on the telly everywhere. It was God. Of course there was a God. It made it all brilliant, right? I was still I knew about evolution and all those things, and I just thought he just started it. He did it. Fine.
Yeah, sure.
There was no real. There was
no cognitive dissonance.
No, exactly. Yeah. So and I think I liked Jesus more because he was a bit of a superhero. I liked him because he was kind and he.
Yeah, sure.
He
He could walk on water.
And he did things.
Yeah.
He helped people. And I thought it's cool.
Yeah.
Cool. In fact, I liked him more. I liked his human half more than his God half. I don't know the rules, so I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah. So, you don't?
No. But I was doing Bible studies, and my brother was 11 years older than me, so I was about 8, and he was about 19. And he came in, and he looked, and he said, "Why do you believe in God then?" And my mum went, "Bob," and I knew she was hiding something.
Oh.
And I thought, "Oh, what's that?" And I thought, "Yeah." And then I started thinking about all the things I'd been taught versus all the things in science I'd been taught, and I thought, of course. It's just like Santa.
Yeah, I mean, so you had the moment. For me, it was just kind of a, I'd like to believe, and I want, and then I just started. The stories started seem a little wilder and wilder, and it was like Santa. Eventually, it seemed like it was unlikely to be true. It wasn't a cathartic moment. It wasn't an epiphany for me. It was just sort of a
no.
But you had an older brother that had that influence.
Yeah. So he,
Did your mom? Was your mom? When did you come out to your mother?
I think it was just easier then. I don't think I did. I didn't particularly talk about it because it just wasn't talked about. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
You went to church because it was the centre of the community.
I was a cultural Jew, and my mum the same. It's the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not. It's everyone's a bit lax. It's everyone I know had to find a church to get married in.
Yeah.
Because they hadn't been.
I'd like to say that my search for religion ended when I found someone who would marry us.
Yeah.
And my wife was Catholic.
It wasn't religion. It was a club.
Yeah.
It was like a club that you had to get through to get married and have a christening, and it was a social occasion. It wasn't. No one really thought. I mean, some people did, but and I think that more and more, if you ask people what they really believe in, people have found this thinking that agnosticism is a polite term.
Yeah.
And I try and explain they're not mutually exclusive. One deals with knowledge, one deals with belief.
Yeah. So, in fact, I just edited an old book about atheism, and this guy said, atheism is unscientific, which is, but agnosticism isn't. But the point is, I hadn't appreciated till I read this particular book, and I wrote a foreword for it, that agnosticism is atheism, because agnosticism is just saying the evidence doesn't convince me. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. It's not sufficient to make me believe.
I don't believe.
Yeah, and then that's a form of atheism.
And faith people saying I don't know. But I believe anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I think the mistake comes when people say that atheism is unscientific is because they think atheism means I know there's no God.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to I don't believe in any of your gods so far.
Yeah.
But convince me. I get tweets, if they proved God existed, would you believe then? I go, of course I would.
Yeah.
And it would be the greatest scientific discovery ever.
Ever, exactly.
Everything else, forget everything else. Don't give the prize anymore. Don't give the that's the one. That's it. It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Right,
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always say, people say, what would it take? I said, tonight the stars realigned.
Yeah.
And said, I'm here. It didn't have to be in English. It could be in Aramaic, whatever.
Ironically, atheists would all believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But all the other religions wouldn't because it'd be the wrong God.
Yeah, exactly. The wrong God. Exactly. No. That's just, yeah, exactly. It's like NASA. We never landed on the moon. It's really fake. They did that just to do that. So your mom has always been fine then with. I mean, I guess she had to tolerate you because
she just hoped that we didn't get killed in a barroom fight and did okay.
Yeah,
and it was all about the kids. Just be nice and don't die. That was it.
Be nice and don't die. That's a great thing.
That was it. And so they use anything.
Well, it worked on you.
They use anything.
Yeah. No. And I don't know if it's the same here, but there was a study done of about 2,000 adults of and atheists were just the word were less trusted than anyone except for rapists. I think it was
joint bottom with rapists in America, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was and it was just sort of sad. It's that notion of that.
It makes me laugh that they think atheism is extremism because you don't believe in any God.
Yeah.
Whereas believe in one.
Yeah, exactly.
Choose one.
Yeah,
don't be an extremist.
Yeah, I mean, what you said in the Unbelievers, the things you said, I thought were the best things we got. But it was exactly that. As you said, it's just one extra God I don't believe in, as you point out.
Exactly.
I think it's.
Well, we're born atheist.
Yeah. Exactly. We are. We're born atheists, and that's right. And unlike what my old friend Christopher Hitchens used to say about what he found so awful about at that time about religion was it said you're born ill, but you're commanded to be well, and that notion. Whereas you actually didn't do anything wrong until you do it. You're not born having been.
It's also a very worrying trait.
Yeah.
For someone to believe that babies aren't innocent.
Yeah.
That's a bit worrying, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a bit sick.
Yeah. It's really sick, and unfortunately, I think it's probably traumatic for many kids. My ex-wife was a Catholic, and I remember the first time she went to church, and they told her that her soul was like a lung, and it started out white, but you do all these, sins, and by the time you're that age when she was going to go to confirmation, it was, it was black. And you had to do these things to try and it was just traumatic. It's traumatic.
Really scary.
It's really scary. I'm happy about that part about having grown up Jewish. At least there wasn't that stuff. I just got told that, all these bad things happened and we were.
But the Old Testament isn't that the first form of Judaism? Isn't that?
Yeah.
That was,
but it didn't. But there wasn't.
No, of course. No one. Yeah.
The soul, hell, and those things. I never really heard about that when I was growing up.
So the New Testament was trying to make it less Jewish for.
For everyone else.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All I got from the Old Testament is supposedly that we're better than everyone else.
Yeah. Well, Jesus in my church looked like Brad Pitt.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
White, blue eyes, blonde hair.
Yeah, blonde hair.
Yeah.
Really, there were a lot of those people in
the Middle East. It wasn't Middle East. He wasn't Middle East. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. I think enough. Well, we'll talk about. I want to talk a little bit about how
enough religion already.
Enough religion already. We've given it too much airtime already. But one of the reasons the concept of evolution is easy. I agree with you. Yeah. It's just a coin toss. But what people don't buy is the scale. The fact that they can do 100 years, maybe 1,000 years. But the idea of 1 billion years and the fact that things change so imperceptibly, that's the thing people don't buy.
It's like looking at one frame of a film and going, well, he's not even running.
Yeah.
Well, no, he is.
Yeah, exactly.
You've just looked at 24th of a second, but he is running.
And that's why but I think that's why it's not intuitive. And it's
I think even people that find it hard to understand, was it Richard's model that if you look at a picture of your granddad, he looks a bit like you did, and then eventually he's a fish.
Yeah.
Now you can,
and no point. There's no point where the child of a fish is not a fish. It's just so, and that's everyone thinks suddenly that you're going to have a child and it's a different species, and it just doesn't work that way. It's
exactly.
So gradual.
But then there's levels of stupid because I get tweets. I've been watching the chimps in a zoo for 4 years now. Yeah, and not one of them has. Really?
Yeah. No. I remember testifying in Texas, and some woman said, my ancestor is a monkey," and I felt like saying, "Well, if anyone's ancestor is a monkey, I think."
Yeah. I know. But the other one is, again, I used to be quite militant, and I used to ridicule people when they said, if we evolved from chimps, then why are there still chimps?
Yeah.
Now I answer it like it's an intelligent question.
Yeah.
I say we didn't evolve from modern apes. We evolved with them rather like cousins.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do any good. But it makes me feel better because I wasn't being nasty, I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. Yeah, no.
Because some people do it genuinely and they think they don't get it.
Yeah.
They don't get it. And that's fine,
Well, I think it takes all types. I've talked about that too. I mean, sometimes you have to sort of jar people in order to get them to think about things. But I think you're absolutely right. Talking to people with respect, at least, is because it's not so much stupidity. Often it's just ignorance, and that's a big difference. It's people just have never been different.
Yeah, because we could say that intelligence and education is a bit of luck that we got there, and but yeah, some people don't want to know.
Well, look who's back again. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen. So, it's us together again about to dive into another clip. Okay, we've already dived into the clip and it's one about Ricky Gervais, man. I saw him making videos about him. He's becoming a weekly tradition on this channel and honestly, I'm not even mad about it. And I hope you aren't mad either. So far, I think it's safe to assume that you all seem to love his videos as much as I do. There is just something about the way this man dismantles arguments that never gets old, man. So far, in the last several videos we've seen him take on journalists like Piers Morgan. We've seen him debate morality. But today we're going back to the basics, man. We're looking at Ricky Gervais in a more laid-back situation on a podcast microphone in front of him and having a laid-back conversation with none other than Lawrence Krauss, who, by the way, is another brilliant figure that has contributed tons to the atheism movement. Now, if you haven't checked out the video that I did on Lawrence Krauss, please go ahead and do. I promise that you'll love everything that he says. And if this is your first time on this channel, welcome, man. You'll quickly learn that Ricky Gervais's superpower isn't just being funny, it's using comedy as a Trojan horse for razor sharp logic. He doesn't just want you to laugh, he wants you to think, man. And the points he makes in this interview is maybe one of the finest examples of this. He's not yelling, he's not angry, he's like a friend telling you a crazy story, barely able to believe he has to explain why it's crazy in the first place. He also has a tendency to lean into the sheer ridiculous logistics of it all, and that's where the magic usually happens. He'll often start by asking the questions that any sensible 8-year-old would about theology, but these are questions that theology itself has spent centuries trying to gloss over. And this is what I personally love about his approach to critiquing religion. He doesn't need to go to a seminary school to study ancient Aramaic translations like the likes of, Alex O'Connor, who's another brilliant gentleman, by the way, but Ricky Gervais just uses and applies basic common sense. Now, let's take, for instance, when he previously talked about Noah's Ark in one of his previous stand-ups. I hope that we'll cover it one of these days on this channel. But in that stand-up, he wondered about the koalas, for example. According to him, how did they get from Australia to the Middle East, and what did they eat on the way? Did Noah just have a massive stockpile of eucalyptus leaves in the hull, man? Now, I'm not doing it justice. He painted this absurdly hilarious picture of Noah as this overwhelmed ancient zookeeper who's somehow managing to feed and clean up after millions of animals without any of the animals eating each other, basically. And whether you like it or not, man, that's the brilliance of it. By focusing on the practical, mundane details, he completely evaporates the mystical sheen of the story. It stops being a sacred parable and suddenly becomes a badly written fantasy script. And through it all, he's not even making a complex philosophical argument against the existence of God. He's basically just pointing out that the story itself is nonsense on a practical level. And according to him, if this is the foundation of your belief, he implies, then maybe the whole structure is a little shaky and you should reconsider it, man. So yeah, that's it for today. I really hope that you've enjoyed today's video, ladies and gentlemen, about Ricky Gervais again. Now, I'll see you in the video that I upload the day after tomorrow, which I believe will be a Friday. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I hope you'll be back for some more. Peace and stay safe, man.